The title of this week's drash would be The Golden Rule. For whom? You all know the Golden Rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It gets drilled into us from when we're even before we know what it means, except we hear it when we messed up and know that we should have done better. In fact, many cultures have a version of the Golden Rule you can see on the slide. They all have it in different phrases, but it kind of comes out in a similar idea. Our American culture has its own versions of the Golden Rule, like he who has the gold makes the rules, or do unto others before they do it unto you, or do unto others and then split. But the real, authentic Golden Rule is recorded for us twice. In Matthew 7:12, in everything therefore, treat people the same way you want them to treat you, for this is the law and the prophets. And then again in Luke 6:31, treat others the same way you want them to treat you. Now, before we pass this guide for life too quickly, I want for us to think a bit about it. The Golden Rule does not say, treat others as we want to be treated. Nor does it say, treat others as we think they should be treated. Instead, what it means is, treat others as they want to be treated. So, how do we want to be treated? We want to be treated in the same way that speaks to us. Okay? Okay, so let's consider these two good old boys. You see them up there on the screen, who want to practice the Golden Rule. Silas and Otto. Now Silas, he likes a tuna salad sandwich and banana slices. Ugh. Different. And Otto likes a peanut butter and dill pickle sandwich. Very different guys. Now Silas wants to practice the Golden Rule, and since he likes a sandwich that's made with tuna salad and banana slices, Silas makes one for Otto. Okay, so we ask, did Silas treat Otto the way Otto wanted to be treated? Silas may just think he did so. After all, he does like tuna salad and banana slices in his sandwich, shouldn't Otto? Poor Otto. He hates tuna fish, and he tells Silas so. Now Silas is sad. Let's help Silas think about this a bit. Think it through a little bit better. How does Silas want to be treated? He wants the things that are pleasing to him. So he would like a tuna salad and banana slices sandwich. And if Otto gave him a tuna salad and banana slices sandwich, which Otto happens to hate, then Silas would be happy. Finally, Silas gets it. To do unto Otto the way Otto wants, Silas has to make a peanut butter and dill pickle sandwich, which Silas thinks is repulsive, and then give that to Otto. Otto is now happy, and Silas understands that the Golden Rule is about knowing people and doing for them as they would like, just as he wants others to do for him. Now that's kind of a long intro, but it sets the stage for the issue at hand in this week's Aliyah. In the Aliyah we read, the children of Israel have come to Rephidim. The word Rephidim comes from Raphad, which means to stretch out or to support, as a place of recovery is a place to stretch out and rest. While at Rephidim, there was no water to drink, and the people became thirsty and faint. They began to quarrel with Moses. Okay, the word for quarrel is rib or rub, from which we get merubah. Then they go on to test Adonai, and the word for test is nasa, from which we get masa. So let's camp, no pun intended, for a minute on this idea of testing Adonai to Nasa. At Masa means testing, from Nasa to test. The people had cried out for water to drink. They were here at Mount Horeb, this is Exodus 17, and were soon to receive the 10 words of the testimony. But now they were thirsty. They doubted whether there was water for them there, and cried out to Moshe. Moshe's response was to ask the people why they quarreled with him and tested Adonai. The test is framed in the phrase, "Is Adonai among us or not?" The word to test is nasa, nun samachet. Simplistically, it means to test or prove something. More than that, it seems to have the force of searching for something that you don't believe is actually present. It seems, especially when used of people, to have this strong sense of doubt. It is as if we set out to prove something is false, as if our mind is already made up and we're only looking for the evidence to prove it. Now, this is not an assumption of a positive outcome and seeking that evidence, nor is it an unbiased search, not positive or negative, just for simply to find evidence. It is an assumption of being fallacious or false and seeking that in evidence. That's what this test is about. They didn't think that the water was there. They didn't believe. So back to the people of Israel at Mount Horeb, at Massah, and their testing of Adonai. They were very thirsty and could not see any source of water. And there seemed some question as to whether Adonai was even there with them, because if he was, he'd provide for their needs. Their thirst seemed to move them to expect a failed test, as if no water equals Adonai isn't here or isn't able. Now in mercy, Adonai commands Moshe to strike the rock and release the water. And though the people drank and were satisfied, yet their faith had failed them, inasmuch as they had tested Adonai. Now, was it wrong to have a need? To call out to Adonai to provide? Though not perhaps explicitly stated, did Adonai not promise to provide all they needed, including water? What is the problem? Is there a problem with standing on the promises? This issue of testing, this comes to us again in the wilderness testing of Messiah. In Matthew 4, verses 5 to 7, it records, "Then the devil took him to the holy city and had him stand on the pinnacle of the temple. And he said to him, 'If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, He will command His angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone.' Yeshua said to him, 'On the other hand, it is written, You shall not put the Lord your God to the test.'" The enemy quoted one of the promises of Adonai and dared Yeshua to claim that promise, to stand on that promise, as it were. In classic fashion, Yeshua understood the enemy's mistake and responded that we are not to test Adonai. So let's be clear. Adonai has spoken promises, and we have needs. Adonai even, at times, asks his people to test him in Malachi 3:10. But here the word is not nasa, it is bachan, which expects a positive outcome. It expects that God will answer, and the test is only to reveal it. So, where is the problem? I would like to offer that the problem with testing Adonai is in the lack of faith. Let me circle back to the opening discussion about the Golden Rule and ask, If we are to treat others the way they want to be treated, how is it that Adonai wants to be treated? As our King and Sovereign, Adonai expects that we will respect him and obey him. As our husband and father, Adonai expects that we will honor and love him. And love here is not the romantic sense, but in the sense of a covenant loyalty or fidelity. But, and let me say this slowly and a couple of times, how, as a person, does Adonai want us to treat him? Let me say this whole thing back. If we were to treat others the way they want to be treated, how is it that Adonai wants to be treated? So as our King and Sovereign, Adonai expects that we will respect and obey him. As father and husband, Adonai expects that we will honor and love him. Again, the love not being in the romantic sense, but in the sense of covenant loyalty and fidelity. But how, as a person, not king and sovereign, not father and husband, just as a person, how does Adonai want us to treat him? So let's look at a couple of incidents from Messiah's walk on the earth and see if we can see something in those incidents that will reveal what we're looking for. Speaking about the end times, when the Son of Man returns, what is one of the most important things that he, the Son of Man, will be looking for? In Luke 18:8, Messiah says, I tell you that he will bring about justice for them quickly. However, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth? Of all the things that Yeshua will look for when he returns, the one he mentions is faith. That is trust, faithfulness, not just belief, but a trusting faithfulness. Consider the incident with the Canaanite woman whose daughter was cruelly demon-possessed. This is in Matthew 15. It's a little bit of a passage, but let me read it. Yeshua went away from there and withdrew into the district of Tyre and Sidon. And a Canaanite woman from the region came out and began to cry out, saying, Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is cruelly demon-possessed. But he did not answer her a word. And his disciples came and implored him, saying, Send her away, because she keeps shouting at us. But he answered and said, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But she came and began to bow down before him, saying, Lord, help me. And he answered and said, It is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. But she said, Yes, Lord, but even the dogs feed on the crumbs which fall from their master's table. Then Yeshua said to her, O woman, your faith is great. It shall be done for you as you wished. And her daughter was healed at once. What was the one issue that overcame every objection that Yeshua put forward and broke his resolve not to minister to this foreigner? It was his favorite trait in people, trusting faith. Consider the centurion of Capernaum and his sick servant. This is in Matthew 8, verses 5 through 10. And when Yeshua entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, imploring him and saying, Lord, my servant is lying paralyzed at home, fearfully tormented. Yeshua said to him, I will come and heal him. But the centurion said, Lord, I am not worthy for you to come under my roof, but just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I also am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. And I say to this one, Go, and he goes, and to another, Come, and he comes, and to my slave, Do this, and he does it. Now when Yeshua heard this, he marveled and said to those who were following, Truly I say to you, I have not found such great faith with anyone in Israel. How did Yeshua respond to the centurion's absolute faith? He marveled, almost as if he was surprised, and smiled. Sadly, upon his homecoming, to Nazareth. The people of Nazareth, the Nazarenes' lack of faith caught him. This is Matthew again, 13. This is 53 to 58. When Yeshua had finished these parables, he departed from there, and he came to his hometown and began teaching them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished and said, "Where did this man get this wisdom and these miraculous powers? Is this not the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas, and his sisters? Are they not all with us? Where did this man get all these things?" And they took offense at him. But Yeshua said to them, "A prophet is not without honor, except in his hometown and in his own household." And he did not do many miracles there because of their unbelief. Mark appends a note to this story. This is in Mark 6:6. It says, "And he, Yeshua, wondered at their unbelief. And he was going around to the villages teaching." As opposed to the Canaanite woman or the Roman centurion, who had great trusting faith, his own hometown folk had a very weak faith. A sad commentary on folk who grow up knowing about Yeshua and yet don't trust in him. Of all the interactions with men, of all that Yeshua saw while he walked on the earth, what amazed him? What astonished him? What made him marvel? It was the trusting faith, or lack of faith, of men. I think what Yeshua was looking for was a faith demonstrated in action. This touched him. This response, trusting faith, is how Yeshua wanted to be treated. It makes sense that this is how Adonai wants to be treated. He does not want to be treated with distrust, unbelief, skepticism, or doubt, but with trusting faith. Let me wrap back to our opening discussion about the Golden Rule, that we are to treat others as we want to be treated, regardless if that's a tuna fish salad with banana slices on our sandwich or peanut butter and dill pickle slices. How do we want Adonai to treat us? We want for him to treat us with mercy in our troubles and failures. We want him to be very patient in our struggling attempts to follow him. We want his favor and blessing in all our endeavors to succeed. And how does Adonai want us to treat him? He wants for us to trust him, to have a trusting faith in him, regardless of the situation or the conduct of those around us. He wants for us to act faithfully according to all that he says. So let me ask, how might the Israelites fainting from thirst at Rephidim, why did they fail? And how might they have responded? In Psalm 95, it records that they did not remember all that Adonai had done, and their faith failed. Psalm 95, 8 and 9. "Do not harden your hearts as at Meribah, as in the days of Massah in the wilderness, when your fathers tested me. They tried me, though they had seen my work." They had seen all that God had done in the plagues and the parting of the Red Sea and the destruction of Egypt's army, and they did not remember, and they did not trust. So, how might we bolster our faith? It's in remembering. I have a few verses I'd like to read here. Exodus 13:3. Moses said to the people, "Remember this day in which you went out from Egypt, from the house of slavery, for by a powerful hand the Lord brought you out from that place." And then Deuteronomy 5:15. "You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out of there by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to observe the Sabbath day." In 7:17, "You shall not be afraid of them. You shall well remember what the Lord your God did to Pharaoh and to all Egypt. 8:2. You shall remember all the way which the Lord your God led you in the wilderness these 40 years, that he might humble you, testing you, to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. And 8:18. But you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who is giving you power to make wealth, that he may confirm his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as it is this day. And there are many other places where we are told to remember what Adonai has done. What then might be a response of faith? Look like? What might that look like? A trusting faith that remembers what Adonai has done and banks its trust on that. Kind of a cute picture. So, how might we respond? Habakkuk, facing deprivation, responds in Habakkuk 3:17 and 18. Though the fig tree should not blossom, and there be no fruit on the vines, though the yield of the olive tree should fail, and the fields produce no food, though the flock should be cut off from the fold, and there be no cattle in the stalls, yet I will exalt in the Lord, and I will rejoice in the God of my salvation. Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, they faced a death sentence from King Nebuchadnezzar, and in Daniel it responds, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to give you an answer concerning this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But even if he does not, let it be known to you, O king, that we are not going to serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. And Eov faced Adonai himself taking his life and responded in 13:15, though he slay me, yet I will trust in him. Regardless of what we face, no matter how difficult or life-threatening, how Adonai wants to be treated is with trust and faithfulness. Shabbat Shalom.